Welcome to the Consciousness Anywhere and Everywhere podcast. I am Shannon O'Hara, and I invite you to a completely new world of possibilities. Welcome, everybody, to another Consciousness Anywhere and Everywhere podcast. Today, I am so blessed and privileged to be joined by the beautiful Chutisa Bowman, who is an inspirational woman in business. She is the wife of Stephen Bowman, who you guys have heard on a previous podcast. And Chutisa is truly, truly a brilliant mind. She is the author and co-author of countless books and a real visionary for different possibilities. So welcome, Chutisa.
Thank you, Shannon. Oh, that's an amazing introduction. I might have to take that part and keep it on my website.
So what I would love to, an idea that actually I sort of pulled out of Chutisa for this podcast today is something that she coins as a lifestyle entrepreneur. So Chutisa, what is a lifestyle entrepreneur?
Well, this is this reality definition, and then I will tell you what mine is. So this reality definition at the moment, what people are doing is they're looking for the lifestyle that they would like to have. And then they create business that would allow them to have enough money to actually survive and have a good life. And so that's what most people see themselves as a lifestyle entrepreneur. So they could be facilitators of consciousness, or they could be, a graphic designer, or they could be lawyers, dentists, any of these who want to create a business to support their lifestyle more so than just to create the business as a business to make money.
That's so interesting to hear you describe it like this, because I would say that that's actually where I started from. Now, when I started, I didn't realize I was being an entrepreneur, nor did I even realize I was creating a business. But where it began was in my early 20s. I was like, okay, I want more freedom. I'd like to be able to travel. I'd like to have greater access to, more of what I want to choose. Now, how do I do that? And then my business formed around that to support those choices.
Absolutely. So you started as a lifestyle entrepreneur who just wanted all of those things. But for me, when I'm looking at you, Shannon, just who you are choosing to be, you could never actually make just enough money to feed yourself from month to month. That's not your way of being. So you are in these next things that I describe as lifestyle entrepreneur who want to create the life that they truly like to have and they enjoy. But at the same time, they know that they can create greater, create more if they are able to be financially independent, meaning allow their entrepreneurial lifestyle business to be a platform to create greater possibilities for their life and for the world. And you are actually, I would say, one who is being that already, in my view.
Yes, definitely. And I think I never would have called it entrepreneur for sure, because I was just sort of creating. I've just always been creating. I don't even really call what I do business, because it isn't really business to me. It's creation. As soon as money gets added into the equation, then somebody calls it business so they can figure out how to regulate it. But what you were also saying before we started recording was something that you're experiencing recently. And I'd love to sort of bring that into this conversation, where you were mentioning, and maybe you can tell people fresh, but where you were mentioning how you and Steve had been, so much in the business corporate world for so many years, and now things are changing for you.
Absolutely. When we made the choice to leave our corporate world together at the same time.
Do you maybe want to tell people a little bit about your corporate history?
Well, I was working for Coles Myers. I'm not sure whether most people probably don't know. It's a Fortune 500 company in Australia, the major corporation that owns everything from Myers, Kohl's, Target, Kmart, and all those. So I was a senior executive for that. That's when I came back from spending 2 years in US with Steve. Went there to get double degree, and then we came back. I got headhunted to become my background is industrial designer and fashion and all those. So I became a fashion buyer for Kohl's Myers. And the first day I walked in, and they said, "Oh, here, this is your department." And I looked at the bottom line of my department, and I was just like turning 30 or something, and say that managing $35 million business. First thing I did was call Steve and said, "Oh, Holly, guess what? I am now managing $35 million business." So that was the beginning of, wow. I didn't really realize that people see that value that allow me to just do that immediately. So from that space, it gave me a lot of understanding about how people function and operate in the corporate world. So I look at, from the space of leadership, from the space of working with people, because being a buyer, I was a senior buyer that traveled around the world. And when you work as a senior executive for corporate world, there's a lot of power. I bought for 450 stores. So there's a lot of power underneath that. And I look at a lot of other senior executive and buyers that have that, what you call a platform that support them. Sometimes they use their power not so nicely. And that's when I started having conversation. Once I realized how things are being created in corporate world, I started talking to Gary about all these things, Gary Douglas, your father,
yes.
About how there must be different way that we can look at leadership. And that's when I first wrote the book about conscious leadership about 18 years ago. It's the first one before there's anyone talk about conscious leadership.
Yeah.
It was really dry and very, corporate speak. But I just said...
Well, I will say, but I will say one thing about that book, actually, because I've actually read it, but I had to read it several times. But I got a really, really amazing, valuable piece of information from that book, which, by the way, if you guys are listening and you want to check out any of Chutisa's books, they will be linked in the show notes for the podcast, because she is, when I say brilliant, I mean, I learn a lot from this woman. So just know that those resources are available for you. In the Conscious Leadership book, I learned for the first time the distinction between a leader and a manager.
Oh, thank you, Shannon. That's mean a lot. But I just wrote another book about conscious leaders for futures.
Ooh.
That's published, but I haven't told anyone. It just came out. That's the month before we went into lockdown. So only Grace and Christine and Steve and I know, and Gary, Grace, Christine know about this book. So we haven't actually launched it. So,
well, are you ready to announce it to the world? Because you just did.
Yes, I'm ready. But I'm really proud of this book. This book is has been quite amazing. I wrote it from totally different space from. And it's so amazing because this book, I wrote it at first, just not actually put too much of myself into it, just telling story about everyone else and everything. And I love Christine and Grace. We were working I was working quite closely with them about editing and all those. And they kept on marking, I want your story here, story here, story here, story here. So the whole book became all about Chutisa. That I didn't mean to. So at the end, I'm so grateful and so happy that they were so they were really insisting that they wanted my story. So the book is totally all about my experience, about becoming bringing conscious leadership to the world, my experience with my mentor, who's Gary, who showed me how to be everything that I am actually could be right now. I mean, I'm just, I wouldn't be who I am now without the way he's inviting me to see who I actually am. I mean, you have the same.
I could say the exact same thing. So will you tell the listeners what you mean by a conscious leader?
Well, conscious leader is someone who actually conscious leader first is leading yourself first. How a lot of people wanting to do conscious leadership. You can't be a conscious leader unless you are actually function from conscious awareness.
Right, in your own life. You first, conscious leader.
Your own life. So everything we and do. And for me, we use that title because I want the world to have it. So I have to use the word that actually
right.
would open the door to this reality and use this reality to work for me. So those titles can be quite this reality title, but for me, it's really about being everything that you could be, being conscious, being aware, and how to be the catalyst for change, for different possibility in the world. For me, is being a conscious leader, not about doing leadership, not about going to try to lead someone or trying to direct someone. It's a state of being. So my book really shouldn't, I said to Steve, maybe we should change the name, but I thought, well, we'll leave it that way and see who we can actually create the invitation to come in to read it. So it's all about embody and be the greatness that you could truly be, and be a leader in your own life first. So everywhere that that you think that you have to be something else to be able to lead, to make, and to expand your life, this book will totally destroy and uncreate everything of what people think the leadership is all about.
Beautiful. I actually would love to ask you a question about the leadership stuff, because it's something that I've been looking at more in the last 10 months. And I actually, because at some point I just realized I was a leader without even cognitively choosing that in the first place. I just sort of looked around and went, okay, I'm leading this. Yeah. And then I looked around and went, wow, so like, can you even teach people how to lead? What's your experience with that?
I never actually teach anyone how to lead, because when you teach someone how to lead, you teach them to do leadership, right? So leadership has to come from within. In my view, being a leader is a self-leadership. It's about self-awareness. It's about who you are choosing to be in this world. And the true leaders are the ones who just be them regardless of whether anyone see the value in them or not. It's about, to me, the true leader is the one who truly the catalyst for different possibilities in the world. And for me, I never define myself as a leader, because ever since I, discover Access, the key thing I always wanted to be from the start is undefinable and unconfinable and so outrageous. And I used to, when many years ago, when Gary used to give us the movie or the TV show or something that's for us to have that, and he used to tell me to watch Lucy, what you call I Dream. No, not I Dream of Jeannie. I Love Lucy.
Okay.
He said that's you. You have to watch that every day. You be the I Love Lucy. And I keep watching it. I said, Gary, I don't get it. What? She's crazy. Like in every show. How am I being that? He said, yeah, but that is the space that you can be, become outrageous. And I was so not outrageous. I mean, you met me 19 years ago. I'm so far from being outrageous that I could actually that. So when he said that, that is you being outrageous, that no one can see you. And I thought, it took me a long time, Shannon. What do you mean being outrageous? I didn't even know what that means, being outrageous. And I had to keep on watching. I love Lucy to know, that is the energy that I can choose to be. And I think I'm being more and more outrageous and undefinable and unconfinable, uh, uh, more and more. And that's the space that I am, being a leader within myself, that if anyone can see me and say, oh, I wonder what she is being and doing, then, they just have to ask me questions and I can tell people anything, but I don't go around trying to tell them, you better be a better leader and this is what you should be and do. So we get invited to go to a board and working with CEO all the time, and we just talk about different way of seeing and being in the world that doesn't require you to come from control, force, and effort. And like Gary often say about leading from receiving. I mean, he's talking about creating from receiving. Really, I just put the word leading from receiving, because you can't lead if you can't be. You can't receive if you can't be. So exactly the same thing. So everything starts off from being first, and people misidentify the fact that to lead your business, you have to, do this, and that. And sometimes people substitute the word do, what be, but in fact they're still doing. So the state of being the leader is like being the catalyst. Everywhere you go, things change. You read my book, the first one, that talking about the entrainment, about the big clock, the one that if you can be the big grandfather clock, and everywhere you are, you actually entrain everyone else to be in sync with that grandfather clock. Meaning, if you put a big grandfather clock with the very high frequency, that when you swing that pendulum and you leave it there for less than a day, and put little clocks in that same room, every single small clock will swing the pendulum exactly to go with the big grandfather clock. So that was another thing that I see the leader is someone who be there that entrain everyone else in that environment to be more conscious, to be more aware, to make the choice from different space without having to do control, force, and effort.
Beautiful. And that's such a different perspective, and also something that is so vital. And anybody that's listening that hears this different perspective on leadership and what being actually can create, it's like, I think this is like the rocket science. This is like the rocket science and physics of consciousness. So it's worth meditating on and digesting and looking at and allowing to be a valid possibility for how we function.
What is true leadership? Discover and take a deep dive into some of the most amazing resources for true leadership in the universe. Visit shannon-o'hara.com/leadership to discover all and more.
So I've got another question, and let's see if this question works. So how does conscious leadership sort of interface or play with the lifestyle entrepreneur place where we started the conversation?
Okay, so if you're going to create if you choose to be lifestyle entrepreneur just to do the thing that you enjoy doing and love doing and make just money to have a great lifestyle you would like to have, then that's fine. There's no right or wrong or good or bad in that. But what I am saying is there are such multiple stream of possibilities that you could choose to become, using lifestyle business to be a platform to allow you to generate multiple possibilities for you and for the world. And from that space, if you made the choice to be a conscious leader in your life, which means it has to be a leader to lead your life first, because lifestyle entrepreneur and your life is so intertwined and integrated. It's not separated from you. So if people think that making the business and making money is separated from you, then you buy into the separation and the contextual reality of how to run the business.
That's so interesting. Yeah.
Steve and I never look at our business, even though people said you should see your business as separate and from you. We don't see that in ourselves, but we create the system and structure to use this reality to work for us. So the taxation department, the accountant, everyone in this world see the system that we put in place that allow us to use this reality to work for us. But Steve and I never see our business anything beside being our life and in our living and about how we want to create the life that support the lifestyle we would like to have. So to be a conscious leader in your business is to really know what you truly want to create in your life as your lifestyle business. And then to be able to function from that space as a conscious leader in your life, you really truly have to use the access to question, choice, possibility, and contribution. Those are the 4 key tools that Steve and I use to actually create our reality and our business reality. We have about 10 stream of possibilities in our business at the moment. And every single stream of possibility get created from question, choice, possibilities, and contribution. And anytime any one of us going into conclusion, projection, expectation, and judgment of any form according to this reality, we actually, tap each other and said, is there any conclusion there? Have we bought the lie of this reality about how things are supposed to be? So that's how we actually able to create multiple revenue streams for our business. And then we go into about 5-6 years ago, we also became aware that we could also set up the business in US as well. So we able to use multiple stream of business, US and here, to actually work together to create something even greater. So first is to become a conscious leader in your own business is you have to function from no fixed point of view about how things are supposed to be and always function in generative moment of what else is possible. And one thing that I actually embrace and embody and be totally when Gary often talk about function from infinite choice and infinite possibilities. And that is our priority for our business and priority for our life is to have fun for whatever we create. So most of the thing I do, I don't tell anyone anyway. We create just for me, just for fun. And we don't tell anyone. I think probably two people that know everything about what I do is Steve and Gary, because I tell them everything, but I don't really tell anyone else about anything I do. And the other things that I see is people, as soon as you function from the fixed point of view about how things are supposed to be, you let go of the ability to be a conscious leader for your business and your life, because you actually buy the lie of this reality and become the follower of this contextual reality. So become a conscious leader of your business and your life is always functions from what else is possible, really. So we able to create all these stream of possibilities from what else is possible. And I'm I still remember that I talked to you many, many moon ago about when you started going in to talk to the entity. I think I had a session with you when we were in Costa Rica, probably about over 10 years ago. And you said something to me that and thank you for inviting to me to see that I had so many beings of light around me. And I thought, oh, okay, and that's when I start embracing creating with different energy. I haven't told anyone. I'm telling you because you have actually with me today. The whole world know. We'll make it infinite.
Well, but that's actually awesome because like I've been so fortunate, and you have as well, and so have some others, but it's not a particularly popular or spoken about thing where you can create very vital, very financially abundant, thriving businesses from these different points of view. It's sort of like I would say that I was like a real hippie, and I didn't really want to work. I didn't want to do something I didn't like. And so that really put me off business and money and da, 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 da. But then my dad taught me and showed me how I could actually do what I loved and create what I loved and make money and joy and space with that. But I had to include the question, the choice, and all of the energies and entities that desire to support my creations and the expansion of consciousness through every bit and piece of material, product, book, conversation, website, email. Every single bit of material that we create can be that invitation or that facilitation to greater. And that actually wants to exist in the world. This isn't just what I love about us is we're actually extremely different. You have been very successful in the way you have. And I love hearing your corporate story too, because I think it sort of it helps people see that like, you know what you're talking about. A lot of times I feel like no one really gets like that. I'm not like it's hard to believe that I'm successful because I think I look and seem so different to people that they can't relate. Because I've actually never even had a normal job. I mean, I was a Pilates instructor for like a year and a half, but that was like that was it. The rest of the time I've been creating on my own as an entrepreneur, if you want to call it that, but just creating. So it's awesome to hear. Yeah.
Most successful entrepreneur never really have a normal job anyway. If you look at people like Steve Jobs and Elon Musk and what is Zuckerberg, none of them ever had a successful business. So you are in a nice group of people who multi-billionaires.
Yeah, and that's what's so exciting. I think you have a very versatile vision of creation, but then you have like a really dynamic business acumen to add to that.
I think one thing we have is we know how to use this reality to work for us. And we really celebrate that, Steve and I.
So can you talk about that more? Getting this reality to work for you.
The key thing is most people, judge this reality as right or wrong, good or bad.
Sure. Like too much work. I don't want to have to,
Too much work. I don't want to do anything that we judge this reality as right or wrong, good or bad. Anything. Just think of anything that you think is right or wrong, good or bad. You cannot see, and I'm sure we all hear this being said by every facilitator, you cannot see what else is truly possible as soon as you judge that you don't want to be that, you don't want to do that. So I think the thing that we have is when we see something that we're starting to say, oh, I don't like that. First question we ask, so how could we use that to our advantage? How can we create greater possibility using this reality, whatever it is, whether it's to do with tax or anything like that? We have a fantastic, people who support us to look at how we could use different corporation, how we can set up different corporate entity, both in US and in Australia, to work together, to allow it to support each other, to allow us to still pay tax, but still use every single thing there to actually create more with the money that we create. So that's one thing that we use this reality in terms of tax to our advantage. And I get, a lot of people say, oh, how can you get excited about tax? But I the fact that, there's so many things people don't know about that you could actually use different way that the government written about tax law to your advantage to allow you to even create more in the world. For example, most people didn't know that if you invest in, low-income housing in America, the government actually wrote the law so that every dollar that you invest in that is a dollar of tax that you can deduct from your income. So if you invested $1 million into the low-income housing in US somewhere, that $1 million came straight off your tax.
Right.
How many people know that, right? So they never use that to their advantage.
A lot of people, something that I've noticed is that a lot of people don't tend to want to do what it takes to really discover what else is possible. They just sort of stay where they are rather than continuing to seek for greater.
Well, average and normal is comfortable. To seek for something greater is like you have to go beyond and you have to ask a lot of questions. And the awareness doesn't actually come to you immediately. We've been asking questions all the time. And someday I wake up in the middle of the night with awareness of, maybe we could do this. Maybe I should, Google this word. The word will come into my head at maybe 2:00 in the morning. And then I thought, okay, I should Google the word and see what I get. So it doesn't actually come like you should do this. The sky doesn't actually part and God doesn't tell me, what. But it might give me a word for me to Google, and then it's go into multiple possibility of what I could create. Because one thing, and I really love your dad because I didn't know that I have that capacity until he pointed it out to me 15 years ago, and I totally embody that, is most people configure possibility. So he said configuration of possibility is the really amazing people do, like people like Rich Branson and all those. They really can configure different possibilities by using this reality to work for them. And he said, that you're very good at configuring different possibilities, but do you know what you're good at? I said, no idea. He said, well, what about the word extrapolation of possibilities? And then I didn't know what that means. That's when we started many years ago talking about extrapolation of possibilities. And when he we had a conversation and became aware that, I didn't realize that I can look at something and I can see. I knew that I able to look at something. I see many possibility that
right
sprung off with that, but I never knew that's something special. I never knew that not everyone been doing it. I thought
no.
One thing that everyone's doing, and then from that day moment, I realized. Then I used to. We used to sit and I used to read magazine. I got so excited about something and I gave the magazine to Steve to read, and he said, "Oh yeah, that cool." I said, "What do you mean that cool?" I mean, and then I got really totally heaved off with him of not seeing multiple possibilities we could create from that. And he said, and then both Steve and Gary said, see, you see things that most people don't see and you think that they should see. So embrace that. So I began to embrace my capacity to see, to extrapolate possibilities and then put action to create it. Just for me, just for fun, and never tell anyone. So that's how did we get to that? I'm not sure.
Conscious leadership, because you're basically putting forward what like a way that conscious leadership can express itself. So it's so different. And I would just so love if there were like university courses on what you're talking about, so that people could get like the time, the support, and the space to really change their perspective of the way in which they think they need to create, and start to get these energies, these different points of view that create completely different.
See, the course that will not be successful unless the person who attended is totally willing to receive.
Totally.
And that would be the criteria of attending this course. It would be a very lonely course for us to be sitting there trying to teach, because for them to actually come to that course, they have to demonstrate the willingness to receive in totality. I have one story I could tell you about receiving. I think this one you could, because you know how I have about 11 being of light on board of my director, but I don't want to define them, but they're always there, and I'm always invite the energy to do trading with me. I trade stock exchange and things. I always invite all of them who want to play with me in that thing to play with me, and which means I have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning in Australia to be able to finishing off the New York Stock Exchange. And some morning in the middle of winter, when there's no daylight saving for either end, in the middle of winter, I used to get a wake up call saying, "Wake up, get out of bed now." I thought, oh, really? It's 2:00. Can it wait? No, get up now. Okay, I know I'm receiving. I made a commitment that I'm going to do this. I invited you all to work with me, and for me not to be willing to receive the information when they said get out of bed now, I would not. They're probably I don't know what they would do, but so that is how I learned to receive. When the energy wake me up at 2:00 and I have to get up, I get up, and it saved my whatever you've backside so many times from getting up. Because if I didn't get up in that moment and take action with my stock trading, I could have lost a lot of money. Like when in March this year, when everything was crashing, when coronavirus starting to take hold, the stock market was like, falling at the speed of lightning.
Yeah.
And no one knew what to do. I didn't even know what action I could take or what I could do, because it just happened so fast and things. So I just hand myself over to the guidance and just say, show me. With me, show me what I need to take, what action I need to take, how could I, and be willing to lose everything to have everything in that moment. You know how we talk a lot about, if you are willing to lose everything, you can have everything and more things will get given to you. That is the turning point in my life. I talk a lot about that, but that moment I knew what it meant in the whole of my being. I knew what willing to lose everything to have so much more in my life. Is that the turning point? So I could thank coronavirus to actually give me the sense of what it means to be willing to lose everything, to have everything, and truly, truly truthful information once I was willing to lose everything.
So what happened?
Well, everything, I mean, I lost immediately $150,000 US just right in that moment. And I thought, okay. And the platform keep saying, you have to put the money in. You have to put the money in right now. Otherwise, we have to shut you down. Because, right. So I woke Steve up. I just said, Steve, I'm sorry. You have to get up now.
What a wonderful thing to wake up to, dear.
Yeah. I said, Steve, hey, just give me 5 minutes. I'm just going to have a breakdown for 5 minutes. Just sit here and go, I said, okay, I'm over that. So let's see what we can, because I couldn't, I gave myself 5 minutes to say, oh my God, what's going on? Yeah. So we actually contact New York immediately and say, look, we are in Australia. There's no way we can transfer $150,000 into your bank account right now. So what can you do different to allow us to actually, give us some time? Don't shut us down immediately. Yeah. So they were pretty good about that, because so anyway, within that time, I'm able to, because it's such a new experience. I mean, I never had that education about how to deal with crisis of, but I knew that I trust that I in myself. I trust in myself that I can deal with it, and I trusted in all my being that around me to actually guide me to the right things. And in my book, in my conscious leadership book, Conscious Leader for Futures That Are Sustainable. This is a title Gary gave me, so I have to give the full title. So, I wrote about Warren Buffett, and before that, Christine and Grace used to send and said, "So what's one thing that you love about Warren Buffett that you think he's your, financial hero?" And I had to write that in the book. So the funny thing is, I wrote that in the book probably a month or 2 months before the whole things happened. And I said, I love the fact that Warren Buffett truly functioned from the space of, if you're willing to lose everything, you can have everything. And in that moment in time, that things came to me and say, if you're willing to lose everything, Chutisa, you can have everything. And that is the things that allow me to sit there and say, okay, if I'm willing to lose everything and trust that I can actually trust in myself, that I could actually create and generate much more than that, then I would be able to make the choice from question, choice, possibility, and contribution, not from the judgment, conclusion, and freaking out that everyone else seemed to be doing in that moment in time. And also the awareness that the freaking out feeling wasn't mine. That's huge. I had to stand that this freaking out moment, it's everyone in the whole world, particularly, all people in stock market is freaking out right now. So it's not mine, willing to lose anything. And that story I shared with you, that story that they asked me to put in the book is Warren Buffett went into what's called shareholder meeting, and say, I read the article long before that, and I said to Steve, gee, when I grow up one day, it would be nice to have capacity to be there. Like he went in, I said to Steve, he went into the shareholder meeting and say he lost $20 billion. Would be fine. If you stick with me, I'll be able to make it back with no problem at all. And that in itself, in energy, that I thought, wow, if I able to lose $20 billion of everyone else's money and able to walk in to tell people that trust me, I have capacity to create and generate more. And if you stick with me, I will be able to create more. And I sent the article to Steve to read, and Steve said, Chutisa, what are you reading? You didn't read it correctly. I said, what? Is it only 20 million? He said, no, read again. $200 billion. I only saw 20 billion. I couldn't even see another zero. So the man lost 200 billion, and he able to walk in and say, I lost $200 billion, but I have capacity to make it all back. And that is the energy that I thought, I might have lost this amount, but I would be able to create and generate so much more beyond what I could ever imagine. And I totally got a yes. And I am now, from that moment, from actually willing to lose everything, I have so much more of me. I have so much more of capacity to be even a greater trader now. So using this reality of Corona to make me even greater. How does it?
That's beautiful. Yeah, thank you for that. Because that's how you lead yourself out of the problem and into the possibility. Because we've all faced that where we're like, oh no, disaster, everything's over, conclusion, problem. And taking 5 minutes to have a problem, and then getting sort of just moving on and keep going into the next possibility. So this has been a great conversation, and what I think is actually pretty much ended up as, conscious leadership.
Yes, we didn't actually say much about lifestyle entrepreneurship or lifestyle business, did we? But Shannon, you are a good example of what the lifestyle business and lifestyle entrepreneurship is all about. And the part I just want to leave with that, most people don't believe that being a lifestyle entrepreneur can actually build generative wealth, that they could actually have totally financial freedom using their platform. And the book that I'm writing right now is to actually create a space for people to look at lifestyle entrepreneurship from a totally different place. And by saying, if you would like to build wealth and become financially free, you can use your lifestyle business as a platform. And it's just a choice. You don't have to do it. You can actually have a nice lifestyle and enjoy what you earn. But there's a different choice that you can do to actually use your business to actually allow you to have financial freedom and to build wealth from that.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Chutisa. And anybody that is listening that is interested in reading and finding out more about Chutisa's books, we will have links below. And hope that you got some incredible sort of doors opened for you in this conversation. And how does it get better than this? Thank you so much, Chutisa, for joining us today.
Thank you, Shannon. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to this show. My target is to make consciousness easy to find and choose. So if you enjoyed this podcast, please leave a 5-star review on iTunes and share this with somebody who you know who might be looking for more consciousness in their life. You can visit me on shannon-o'hara.com or talktotheentities.com. And to learn more about the amazing tools of Access Consciousness, you can visit accessconsciousness.com and be sure to subscribe to the podcast.